Hi, everybody. Lori, GLP1 Journey in Review. Quick impromptu live. I actually tried doing this an hour ago and I messed it up, so apologize for that. Um, Early here, again, impromptu, a little after 6 this morning, 4th of July. Um, Wanted to let you know some changes in the channel. I have moved from being banished to the bedroom due to my wife working in the office to I created a little space in our spare bedroom slash storage area. Again, behind me, there's a bunch of shelves with a bunch of storage stuff, uh, hence the brick wall. Um, Again, new microphone. Uh, Things are hopefully getting better, a little bit more comfortable for me. I'm in a chair rather than sitting in the bed. So for me, that's an improvement. Uh, so that's one change. I tried getting a little sound mixer, but I couldn't get that working with the new microphone. Um, Probably something I'm doing. I thought I was following the directions. I guess I'll have to call customer support. I don't think a holiday weekend is exactly the time to do that. Again, I'm starting to pick up some more hours at work. I was on vacation this week, which we'll talk a little bit about. Um, so that's it. I wanted to talk to you about my interview series, which people have been messaging me that they found super, super helpful. I've got some really nice interviews coming up. I've got one that I'm doing today with Dell, who is from the UK, who has recently started and is doing phenomenal. His videos are great, very inspirational. We're going to talk about that today, which will probably be out in 2 weeks because I try to do my interviews coming out on Monday. I've got 6 or 7 of them that I'm doing this month, so there may be a little bit of wait. I have Lorraine from The Downsize coming out. I have this girl Pamela. She's also a creator and also a GLP-1 user. Uh, and I'm not exactly sure when that's coming out. And a big one with Dr. Dan, very informative on obesity medicine. So, I may do a special edition on that because I have a lot of them this month. Uh, Other ones coming up. This girl Randy that I know that's on it. I may be interviewing my brother who's using this slightly differently because he's just kind of using it for that 10, 15 pounds here and there. No judgment. That's personally not how I would use it. But we'll find out how it's working for him and what kind of doses, and if this is a possibility, as long as the medication is available. So again, we'll see how that goes. I know that most of you are watching this on replay, especially since it's not even sunrise here. Uh, Doing the interview again with Dell a little bit later. Dell is his name. We're doing a little bit later because I am 5 hours ahead of him. He's 5 hours ahead of me. Sorry, I always mix that one up. If you would like to do an interview, I would greatly appreciate it. I think that these are so helpful, and people are just learning so much because they can relate to other people's experiences, even though everybody's journey is different. Uh, you learn something from everybody's journey, and that kind of this little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. Um, Creates your journey. So let me know in the comments if you're interested in doing an interview. You can email me at glp1journeyinreview at Yahoo. I'll even give you my personal email, lorieisman@gmail.com, LORRIEISSMAN @gmail. Pretty simple one. I just recently, last week, did an interview with Ash Silver, who has lost like 300 pounds and has done remarkable. And She's also a content creator, nothing to do with GLP-1, but she again has lost almost 300 pounds and has followed, like 600-pound weight loss and all these types of things. Personally, not one of my favorite reality shows, but to each their own. And she's has two channels. One of them, which I first started following her, which covered the L word and a lot of lesbian type or women loving women type of shows, and people have watched her through. I mean, she had lost a lot of weight when she started this channel, but watched her lose like another 100 pounds through this. And it's just been inspirational. It was inspirational to me, which is one of the reasons why I started this channel, is because I figured, her goal was when she lost 100 pounds that she was going to start a YouTube channel. And then, as I got really close to my goal, I figured, hey, why not start a YouTube channel? Because one, I'm just super excited about this medication, this tool. Yeah, it's a great tool, and it's the first one that's really worked for me, and I know it's really worked for a lot of people. Plus, you don't see a lot of people my age uh, on YouTube starting channels, and there are a lot of people my age, and actually, most of my viewers are just a little bit younger, and that's okay. But it's we have slightly different struggles because we're older. As a lot of us have gone through menopause or are going through menopause, which changes things slightly. So to get another perspective like that is great. Like I said, even though surprisingly majority of my viewers are, I think, between 34 and 44, which I guess is somewhat common when you think about it, because, people at that age, need time to do something health wise and appearance wise and so forth. Because let me tell you, since I've lost my weight, I just feel phenomenal, and I'm obviously carrying 60 some pounds less. Gives you a little bit more energy. Plus, like I said, as you're going, or at least as I'm going through my journey, and I find this true talking to other people, as they're going through their journey and losing the weight, you just want to do more, and hence the exercising and so forth, which gives you just boosts your metabolism like you wouldn't believe. Sometimes I'm shocked that from you know 4:30 in the morning to like 8 o'clock, I'm just constantly going, and it's like I've never had that, and I'm getting closer to 70, so that's saying something. And most of the people that I work with at work are 30ish, and like they're like, I can't even keep up with you, which says something right there. uh, and I just think that this type of relatability with some of the older people helps. And this community has been great. It's totally good with support. And again, I think in these interviews you see that. So again, I strongly encourage you, one, to watch the interviews and be interviewed. Sometimes getting a little bit out of your comfort zone and telling your story helps you as much as it helps other people. And you don't realize that when I did my first interview on the downsize, I didn't think it was going to help me as much as it did. It surprised me. And there's a lot of things both on this journey and on YouTube that are surprising me. So we've talked about some changes in my thing. Hopefully, these will make it a little bit easier to watch. The fact that I'm not in bed, uncomfortable, squirming around trying to get comfortable and so forth. I'm actually in a chair at a desk. Um, Hopefully, that'll help. Hope everybody uh, watches my interview coming out Monday with Charles Round Mound of Zepbound. Very knowledgeable guy, great channel, great news, terrific story, great tips. And again, it's a different perspective because it seems like there are more women that are on this medication than men. I did a video that kind of explains that because women tend to see doctors a little bit more, and I don't know if it's because they have the time or part of it is a little bit of vanity too. It's like we want to look better, we want to feel better. Again, we're uh, not me in particular, but some of them are taking care of their households, watching their kids, and want to do more things with the kids. And losing the weight will help that. So, you know, I think that that's part of it. But you could watch that video and find out other reasons. So, it's interesting to get a man's view. Plus, he is or used to be an athlete and then had to deal with some of his injuries and so forth and, other things along those lines. So, very interesting. And then the interview I have coming up with Dell. Well, he was a 48-year-old living in the UK. Uh, and his doctor said, "Hey, you have to make some lifestyle changes. Otherwise, you're not going to be around in a few years." And again, the reason why, my aha moment was kind of, I do CT scans for a living. And basically what happened was I had a really bad cough and they finally made me get a CAT scan. And one of the things that we noticed is that there was a little bit of calcium in my coronary arteries, which is a sign of heart disease. So I went ahead and did a cardiac score, and it was a little bit higher than what I thought. It was just into that moderate zone. I don't remember the exact number. I would tell you, I think it was something like 168-ish, which I think anything up to like 160 is, you want zero, but it's like puts you into a moderate risk. So I'm like, oh, better go see a cardiologist. And he's like, well, hopefully you'll start eating a little bit better and lose some weight. That kind of was my aha moment because heart disease does run in my family. And yeah, I didn't want to have to go through that, and I could hear my little heart saying, hey, let's not go through that. That's kind of a big thing, and that could cause some, serious things. Even though working in the medical profession, and this is kind of a funny story because um, my cardiologist is the son of one of the radiologists that I work with. And, he's always saying, oh, let's, your wife, me and my wife, let's, go out to dinner. We can get some Italian. I'm like, I'm really trying to lose weight. And he's like, screw that. You gain a little bit of weight. Now, he isn't obese or anything, but, you go to somebody like my son and they'll fix it. Again, that's some of us older people's mentality is, like we take a pill for everything. We listen to our doctor, his rule, like the doctor could fix anything, like we're invincible still and so forth. So, kind of a funny thing that he would say that, here I am now going to his son, who's a cardiologist and he's like, if you change your lifestyle and, maybe even eat a little bit less red meat and fish. Well, I eat a lot of fish. So, that wasn't the problem. So obviously was the weight. And I run into some problems with the weight, like, my blood work, my, liver enzymes were always a little bit off. And, yes, when I had the CAT scan, I'm like, my liver's a little fatty there, which as I lost the weight, my liver rebounded and became okay. Uh, you can't really get rid of the calcium that's in the arteries. What he's telling me is that it's like soft clot, which should be okay. But, we don't know unless we actually do an actual angiogram and a cardiac cath, because even the CT, cardiac, um, CTAs of the coronary arteries, they're good, but they're not 100%, and you do get some false positives and so forth. But I'm not at that stage yet, fortunately. And hopefully I won't be, because hopefully my changes in my diet and my weight, which I plan on being on this medication probably forever, and unless something comes along or there's a reason why I have to get off of it, in which case I'll hope that my lifestyle changes is enough. Right now, I don't think so because, being on maintenance, I have been on 7.5, and I have noticed um, I take my shot on Saturday morning. I've noticed Thursday, Friday are a little bit harder because, the half-life of the medication is 5 days, and that makes sense. So far, I haven't gained any weight because of it, but, I did want to try dose splitting, which didn't seem to work quite as good as I hoped it would. Now, one which I think my opinion may have been a mistake, as I did this after I came back from my vacation. And like for 10 days, I was eating more than what I usually do. So when I took the original five, as opposed to the 7.5, it just didn't have that kick. And I felt a little bit of food noise and a little bit of hunger. Was this because I just came off of eating more? I don't know. The 2.5 did help a little bit, towards the end of the week, but overall, I didn't think it was as helpful as it could be. Well, I tried this again when after a couple of weeks where I wasn't overeating. I'm open to it, because again, this maintenance is all basically trial and error. They have nothing magically um, written out as to what to do, a protocol or anything like this. It's kind of between you and your doctor what works best. Um, I've noticed a little bit again. I don't know if this is because I just took another vacation, although it was only a 3-day vacation. A little bit of the food noise. I don't know if it really was food noise because, again, I didn't know what food noise was till it went away, but I figured I'm changing my sleep patterns just a little bit because I'm on vacation, and yes, I'm sleeping an hour or so later. So why shouldn't I maybe stay up an hour or so later? And I get that little trigger like, I'm tired, but like I do kind of want to, watching a good show, so I do pop a little, extra Quest or Atkins peanut butter cup, which I probably don't need uh, in my mouth. Is that food noise? Is that just trying to stay awake? I don't know, but I'll go back to my normal patterns um, in a couple days because I took the whole week off because I figured, well, I'm getting paid for Friday, and my normal work week is supposed to be Thursday, 13-hour days, Friday, 13-hour days, Saturday, 12 to 13-hour days, depending on which place they put me in. And I usually pick up a day or two besides that. So, I'll be back to my normal thing. The only thing I don't like about um, those hours is I eat dinner later than what I would really like to, and then I kind of go to sleep with full stomach. And I was eating seafood on those days because it's a little bit lighter, but then they increased it from 12 hours to 13 hours. And I'm like, I don't want to come home and start cooking, you know, because my typical time when I come home is I do stuff around the house that I have to do, like, clean the cat's litter, if it's garbage night, take a quick shower. Sometimes I like to do that before I eat, so that my hair is dry when I go to sleep. So, I do eat a little bit later, but since I don't really feel like cooking, because, that'll add even more time, is I switch to factor meals, which I really do like. I find that their salmon's pretty good, but that's about the only seafood that they really have that I like. Um, they just don't have a lot of seafood. I'll have some shrimp once in a while, but to me, shrimp isn't one of my favorite seafoods. I do have it for lunch sometimes, because I think it makes a great lunch, but I don't know for dinner. So, but anyhow, it's a lot of chicken, and they do help me in the fact that sometimes I don't think that I eat enough calories, and these are basically between 450 anywhere up to 600. I try to stay right around 500 calories, but like in there you get your chicken and you get a vegetable, and sometimes they throw in like 3 slices of a potato or just a little helping of mashed potatoes, just enough to have it, which is a carb that I normally wouldn't take. Sometimes they do have sweet potatoes in some of theirs, but it helps me because right there is a good chunk of my daily calories, and my protein shake that I have is with the Fairlife milk, and the collagen that I add to it is basically around 200 calories. So, right there you have somewhere between 700 and 750 calories, you of the day. And, I try to have a little bit of a snack, and I do have lunch. So, that helps me in getting enough calories. Keep in mind that I'm 5'2" and I'm now basically 115, 118. I don't need as many calories as just to keep my weight stable as when I even weigh 10 pounds more. Keep that in mind as you're going through your journey. As the smaller you get, the less calories you need, and you have to adjust them to either maintain or to be in a deficit, whichever stage of the journey that you're in. So, that's how I handle that. Yes, I would like to eat earlier, but it really doesn't happen. And I tried to maybe bring it to work, but, in the almost 40 years that I've been doing CT scans, I don't get lunch very often. Pretty much it's like 2, 3 bites, start a patient, come back, and 2, 3 bites, continue to get the patient off the table, maybe get the next one on 2, 3 bites, which isn't the best way to do it, but, this is just the way it is, with the shortages in the medical profession. Pretty much always been that way, and, everybody's always trying to get more patients in than we possibly can. You know, that's just what I do. I can't really do anything about that. So, I kind of have to work around that. So, while I'm at work, I've noticed that I have tried to at least get more activity in. Now, kind of jumping around a little, apologize with that. But when I was on vacation, just the beginning of the week for just 3 days, I decided to take off some time from working out, because usually if I'm off that day, I'm working out. So I just didn't feel like it. And the gyms that I could go to were about 25 minutes away, which normally isn't a big deal, but it just didn't feel like it. And sometimes you have to give your body a rest, and this was it. So it was basically a week that I didn't work out. So I'm kind of making up for it this week. Um, am I overdoing it? Not really, but I'm doing a little bit more than what I usually do, because usually I do between a half hour, 40 minutes of cardio or hit, which combines the cardio and the strength training in a sauna. And then I walk next door and I do basically core and legs, and occasionally a little bit extra arms. One of the reasons why I do that is because 6, 8 months ago, I had a fracture in my foot, and there's like, is it 100%? No, it's probably about 90%. Um, I think that's kind of normal in healing. Um, as a rule, it doesn't bother me, but occasionally I just feel a twinge, nothing major. And they say if I have my foot strapped into something, it should be fine. So that's kind of like what I'm doing as far as leg work. And I did start doing chin-ups, but on a machine because I am a little bit elderly. And I also read somewhere that the average person can't even do one chin-up. Well, straight off without the machine, I did one chin-up, but it was hard. And I'm like, should I try a second one? I'm like, no, I might hurt myself. So with the machine, basically what you do is, you set a weight, and what that does is it subtracts the weight from your weight. And right now I'm at 40, so it takes like 40 pounds off me, and I could do a couple sets of anywhere from 12 to 15, depending on what part of my workout I'm in. I try to do that first when I have the most energy. Sometimes that machine's busy and I have to wait, and sometimes I can't do quite as much, but that's okay because I do a lot of arm work in my hot works. I use it's called Hot Thunder, and it's a rowing machine, but the handles are separate. So while you're doing it, you're doing some arm work and so forth. But that's kind of like what I do in the gym. So again, my ADD have to get back to what I was talking about. So that's my gym routine. And yes, I've added basically another 15 minutes onto the gym part, but to try to make up a little bit for what I'm doing today. I think I'll go back to normal. And starting next week, um, I'm back to my normal work schedule, just picking up basically 1 day or 2 days. And if it is 2 days, I try to make it a short day so that I can either get a workout before or a workout after, but it's not as long of a workout as if I was off that day. Um, Now over my vacation, I got home and I was all lighted. I'm like, I didn't gain any weight. Well, the next day, I was up, I don't know, 3.5 pounds. Was it because there may have been salt or I'm retaining water? I don't know. I am a daily weigher. I don't take that too seriously. One, because I'm on maintenance and I know your weight can fluctuate like that. So it's not like I'm panicking. I just kind of use that as a guide. So I figured I'm going to kind of watch my salt because while I was away, I was eating a lot of seafood. Yes, I did have my ice cream at night, but it was a small amount because I had to buy the little individuals because we got a suite and I thought it had a full kitchen, but it was only like a partial thing. And it was a very small refrigerator with a very small freezer, so I couldn't fit too much into it, which actually was pretty good because then I just had the little small thing of ice cream. Again, first bite, super sweet, but I did get used to it. I'm not totally giving up my ice cream. It's kind of like my treat while I'm on vacation. Don't do it, don't get the vacation stuff often. Um, Occasionally, if I went out for a party at a restaurant, I might have a spoon or two or something like that, but that's rare. I usually kind of save that for vacation. That's my special treat. So, do I want to lose that, few pounds? Yeah. Um, Am I going to be worried if I don't? I'm just kind of going back to my normal routine and see what happens. Maybe trying to do a little bit less eating at night. Again, now I can control if there's, how much salt there is in my food and so forth because, I'm cooking. Um, that is one thing I have to say about the factor is some of them are a little bit higher in sodium, but blood pressure really isn't a problem with us anymore since my wife and I have lost the weight. So, I'm not quite as worried about that. But yes, you can be holding some water, which is why there's such a fluctuation. I realize this and I know this as I am um, going through my routine of eating since I am a daily wearer. Um, Again, 118 is my kind of like goal thing. If I go down to 115 or up to even like 120, 121, I'm not going to panic. Again, I hit that 121. I'm like, okay, let me make sure I'm drinking enough water because I think that was part of the problem while I was away. I wasn't drinking enough water. I did bring a 6-pack with me, but yeah, these hotels charge, and they kind of charge a lot for water. Probably should have bought some water, but again, on vacation, not quite as strict or, watching quite as much as I should be. But, learning next time, I'm going to bring a case of water with me when I go on vacation. I'm still going to be a little bit bad, even though no food is off limits, and I uh, will eat almost any kind of food in moderation. Again, you know, two of the nights I did have those little, I think Haagen-Dazs makes some thing of ice cream, uh, probably extra. I did have breakfast, which I normally don't do. I don't know why, but for some bizarre reason, not so much the first day, but the second day, I was hungry. And all they basically had downstairs was a Starbucks, so I had a breakfast sandwich, and it wasn't a full Starbucks. Otherwise, I would have gotten the egg bites. They didn't have those. The only thing that they had were the breakfast sandwiches, and I think it was like one other thing, which yeah, I really didn't care for. I think it was actually avocado toast, but I wanted to have some sort of protein with it, which avocado toast is a good breakfast, but it's has good fat and so forth, but it's not really a protein. So I did want something with protein. Um, Granted, it had a little bacon in it, and it really wasn't that great because again, it wasn't even a real Starbucks, but anyhow, I probably could have been not quite so lazy and gone to an actual breakfast place and gotten breakfast. But I was on vacation; it doesn't happen too often. So there you have my vacation and my vacation weight things. Um, so. Talked about the changes in the channel. Um, Again, I repeated, I did this and I forgot to hit uh, the thing to go to YouTube. So this is basically a repeat. So it's kind of like a little bit of a brain fart as to exactly what I was saying. Um, so going back to my interview, especially with some of the Dr. Dan coming up. He is an obesity expert, and um, I want to talk to him about some of the things we should be or could be adding. Now, keep in mind, really, with one of the things that I really like about this GLP-1, all you really need is the shot. You take the shot. The shot does its thing. No, it's not going to melt away the fat. No, it's not like you could eat anything you want. There goes the thing, that would be a miracle drug. And this is a miracle drug, but it's not that big of a miracle drug. So you take your shot, you have your appetite suppression, you eat a little bit right, you know, you move a little bit more. You don't have to join any fancy gyms, just movement. Like take a walk, park a little bit further, which I will say while I was on vacation, I did do that. And when I do work a lot, because like I said, I went a whole week without any workout just because I picked up a lot of overtime because I was going on vacation and wanted to pay for everything with the overtime and for this new setup, new microphone, uh, new sound system, and so forth. Uh, but I did park further away. Uh, Now at work, where the CAT scanner is a little bit far from the lobby. Sometimes I don't know how some of these old folks do it. Sometimes I have to, it takes a while for them to get there with walkers and stuff. Sometimes I have to offer them wheelchairs, but it's like it used to be two techs to keep things flowing really well, but to save money, since everybody wants to make money, they have it one tech, one TA, and usually the TA is getting somebody while I'm scanning and so forth. But it was a little bit slower, probably because of the holiday and so forth. So I was volunteering to go up to get the patient and walk them back just to get some extra steps in and, walk around a little bit, parking a little bit further away. I was thinking about bringing some dumbbells to work, but considering that sometimes I get switched around due to staffing and so forth, somebody else come, they'll see them, they'll put them in a back room. I won't know where they are, and probably not the best thing. So, we have these big thing. I want to say maybe 30 ounces of barium. Yeah, I could use those. And I do a lot of standing up using the counter push-up type things while I'm, sometimes waiting for the blood work to come back because we have a little machine that does the creatinine because my contrast is filtered out through the kidneys. It has to be at a certain level, and that takes 2.5 to 3 minutes. So sometimes while I'm doing that, I zip into my little control room and I'm doing push-ups, standing push-ups and so forth. Anything just to be moving. You don't need anything special with these medications. You can do it at home. Yes, you should watch your diet, maybe buy some different foods and, not going to the fast food things, at least at first you could slowly start bringing some of that back in. But again, that's up to you how strict you want to be and what you need to keep, this journey going. For me, I don't need it. For me personally, if I have a taste for a burger, McDonald's just isn't going to cut it, especially since the McDonald's by me, there's a hamburger place that has like 56 different kinds of ways that they make hamburgers. Basically, it's just toppings and buns and so forth. And they have one in a lettuce wrap, and it's a much better burger. Yeah, it's a little bit more expensive, but you have to realize you go to McDonald's, you know, it's going to be anywhere from $5 to $10 if you get a drink and a diet drink or whatever. And okay, so there it's 13 or 14. Yeah, yes, it is a little bit more expensive, but to me, it tastes so much better, and it is bigger, and I won't eat the whole thing. And again, you can get it a healthy way, or I have no problem. Um, Yeah, jazzy, nice setup. Thank you. A lot more comfortable for me. Again, it was really hard sitting in bed uh, doing this because it just really wasn't comfortable sitting in the bed. And again, if I'm more comfortable, hopefully I could project myself a little bit better. But back to the hamburger thing, it's like again, if I feel like I have no problem usually making a hamburger at home because I'll just buy a lower fat meat. And again, this place called Lindbergh's has a higher quality meat than what McDonald's has. And yes, they make it on probably on a griddle. Uh, they do say that they are charbroiled, whatever the heck that means. But you know, again, it is what it is. I have to kind of trust them. And, if I am going to have a burger, I would rather, you know, call ahead, order it, drive over, which is literally maybe 200 feet from the McDonald's. I would rather have that. But that's just me. I have no judgment for people that do have some fast foods. And I do know that, like Taco Bell is concentrating a little bit more on some of their protein things. Um, it just really isn't something for me. If I am going to have tacos, I would prefer actually making them myself. At least I know what's in it. Uh, and I don't really have tacos that often. For me, that even before this, I never really had tacos too much. Um, if I'm going to a restaurants by me or Mexican combination, Cuban, and I'd rather kind of go for the steak because, like, even Um, we'll take this holiday weekend. Uh, when I got back, I had my swordfish because I just love my swordfish. I like the way that I make it in the air fryer. Um, Sometimes I prefer that over salmon, although I do like salmon. I try not to have swordfish salmon combination right after each other. I was told that that's better. I don't know how true that is. I'm not a nutritionist, but it does have the good omega fat. Uh, Again, I try not to have it one of those fish more than once a week. My favorites are snappers and so forth. But had that the first night back. Last night, getting into the 4th of July thing, I was debating between filet mignon and skirt steak, but I think skirt steak, on a barbecue with a little bit of sugar-free barbecue sauce for me. I Again, getting into the barbecue thing, I had some skirt steak. Um, Trying to think what vegetable I had with it. Early in the morning here, sorry, impromptu live. And this is the second time I did it because I fucked up the first time, sorry. Um, I have with it for a vegetable. Can't remember. Oh, zucchini. Had some zucchini. Tonight, I'm going to make grilled chicken. Um, my favorite happens to be boneless, skinless breast. My wife likes shark meat, so I actually like both. My preference is um, white meat. Now, funny thing is when I was a child, I used to only eat dark meat because basically most of my family that's all that they had. But then they started, as I got a little bit older, telling me, "Oh no, you like the white meat because." They didn't. And they didn't want it to go to waste, and I kind of learned to like both. And they do say the white meat is a little bit healthier, but I bought boneless, skinless thighs, and they're small pieces. So again, I think one at most two pieces because they are kind of small. Um, Grill them up. Gonna have I'm not sure what vegetable, maybe butternut squash. I don't know. I also have some cauliflower. I don't know which one I'm gonna make with it. Um, Keeping with the 4th of July barbecue theme, um, I was originally going to go to some friend's house, but I think I've traveled enough this week, driving across the state a couple times. So I think I just want to kind of chill and do it at home. So, that's how I'm handling my 4th of July. Again, moderation, barbecue theme. I use sugar-free barbecue sauce. I could make it myself. I used to make it myself. I've been a little bit busy. So, I bought one of the no sugar added barbecue sauces, and I don't use much. I just use it because if you use too much on the barbecue, it burns a little bit. So I just kind of the last few seconds brush some on there, flip, to get it on there. And that's how I'm handling 4th of July. Um, Again, my fruit for dessert. For me, my favorite fruits are honeydew, which another month or two will actually be in season here, but it is in season in the Arizona, and the farmers market that I go to is getting it from Arizona, so it's pretty ripe and pretty good. Uh, Watermelon, which is in season now, fantastic. I really like it. Nice and sweet. You get very low in calories. So, like even sometimes if I feel like maybe I'm overdoing it, it's still low in calories, loaded with water, helps with hydration, which again, I don't think I was hydrating enough while I was on vacation. Probably because I was on vacation and I'm like, I had a little bit more iced tea. I had a little bit of the new uh, zero sugar Sprite tea as opposed to just water. And I know water, especially, I like it with the element electrolytes is good. And I wasn't working out. Usually when I work out, I have like two bottles of that, and that's how I get my element electrolytes in. Um, I wasn't doing that when I was on vacation, which is rare because, when I go on vacation, but it's usually more than 2 days. But even when I go up to Vero Beach, which is also like a 2 to 3 day vacation, I at least get a good workout in. But I will say that the gym that I am an Anywhere member to is only like 10-15 minutes away there, where this was like a half an hour away. And I don't know, just for some reason, I felt like being lazy. Hey, I'm giving myself grace. I was on vacation, and we need to know when to give our bodies a rest. So, you know, that's how it is. And really, the watermelon is just so great. I actually, um, what's the word I'm looking for? That's actually what I desire for fruit. That's what I desire for dessert is fruit, which is total different mindset than what I was in before I started this. Because for me, dessert was pie or cake or ice cream, and it's funny how when you get into this lifestyle and you get used to it, your cravings change, and now I crave fruit for dessert. Don't get me wrong, once in a while, like when I go on vacation, I do have ice cream or maybe even some cake, or if I happen to uh, go to a party, birthday thing, I might have like a bite of, cake once in a while. But, that first bite is like disgustingly sweet. Don't get me wrong, I could probably get used to it. But, you know, that's just the way it is. So again, please comment, email me. Would love to interview you. Um, you'd be surprised how helpful it is to people and how helpful it is to yourself, because just getting a little bit out of your comfort zone is so good for you. I mean, it's mentally, and we all need these, mental uplifting type of things. Uh, and again, if you're helping people, just telling your journey, somebody, I know everybody's journey is different, but if they could say, "Oh yeah, I can relate to that. Oh yeah, let me try this. Help work for. Let me try that." How helpful it is, because and his support is just so important. And you'd be surprised, doing these interviews, me interviewing people, is helping me more or just as much as it is to other people. So please, GLP1 Journey in Review at Yahoo. Comment on any video. I try to read all of my comments. I try to respond to them as quickly as I can. This interview, like I said, I had with Ash last week, I've had people message me through either Facebook, Insta, any of them. I get notifications and I answer it. I do not sleep with my phone, so if you do it a little bit later, it'll be in the morning when I uh, wake up and actually see it. But I guess some of these people just didn't want it to be known that they're on GLP-1, or for whatever reason. No judgment. This channel does not judge here. Um, being, I was again just helping this guy who I'll leave nameless, because uh, he's now on Medicare and his Zepbound isn't covered. I wanted to know again about compounding, and where I get it, what some of the prices are, which, I tell them my opinions of them. And then he said, my biggest problem is how long is compounding going to be around? I don't have a magic ball, a magic crystal ball. I don't think anybody does. I think the fact that it's such a slow legal system is helpful to us. The fact that they're trying these things, even though they may not work, they could buy us some time. And who knows, if they buy us enough time till these new medications come out, I think it's going to help lower, again, my opinion, I think it's going to help lower the prices of the tirzepatide and the semaglutide, which could only help. And as far as me, orforglipron might be the answer to me. Taking it every day might help with some of this, half life and how I get, hungrier later in the week. I don't know. I haven't tried it yet. Um, but I think it's going to help lower the prices. And as long as compounding is available, I know personally I'm going to use it. Worst case scenario, I might have to go to Lilly Direct. I mean, like I said, hopefully, and I think Orderly has a good, or they're going to have a good setup. Don't know if it'll last, but they're incorporating blood work, smart scales, and so forth. Some people may or may not qualify. A little bit more intense questioning, um, so that they could see what additive, and I don't know how many additives they're going to have, but it, may not be this blanket, everybody gets B6. Um, Again, may buy us enough time. They seem to be confident because they just bought a pharmacy. Um, but we'll see as long as it's available. Again, just praying that it's till at least the new medications come out and brings down the prices. And that's kind of it for this impromptu live. Any comments or anything you want me to talk about, put in the comments. Uh, Again, GLP1 Journey in Review at Yahoo is my email. Would love to interview you. Any questions, anything, if you don't want it, you know, on YouTube, message me, email me. I'm available for you. I want to support you because me supporting you actually helps me as much as it helps you. And with that, I'm signing off. Have a good 4th of July, everybody.